So, hi everyone. I'm Olivia. I know it comes up as Carly. I haven't changed the name, so my bad. I have to do that next time. But I'm Olivia. I'm joined today with Howard, who you can hear in the background, but he's taken himself off video just to improve his Wi-Fi a little bit more. And then we got Tom. Tom's usually in the background and just to monitor the chat box and things like that as well. So we're here with you today to talk about data protection. So this is a really interesting, very deep subject as well. So today we are going to talk about, kind of skim the surface on it, just to go over a few key points again. And depending on your questions and depending on your needs and wants from this session, we could always arrange a more in-depth session later on with perhaps like a subject expert. Maybe we could get somebody from the ICO or the Information Commissioner's Office, that is, or a suitable expert with that. So that's something which we can always look at later on. So I'm going to move my slides on. So today we are going to take a little look at protecting data, a little bit about GDPR, because there's still a lot of questions about it, and we're not going to confess to being absolute experts on it. As I say, depending on your questions and what sort of things you want answered, we can look at sort of something in more depth later on. So the role of the Information Commissioner's Office and how can this affect you as a trainer. So first of all, like a common sense approach goes a long way. So protecting any data is of the utmost importance. So you are collecting lots of data from lots of people. So you've got an awful lot there. So you need to make sure you take reasonable measures to protect that. So that could be things like, just making sure a password is on a digital device. You can make sure that, if you don't want to leave like training records or data, people's names and addresses in sort of a physical book in a diary and leave that in the car overnight, that type of thing as well. And when it is in your house, it needs to be locked away as well. So do make sure that, you just put in a few little safeguards in place just to make sure that you are approaching it from a reasonable and a common sense point of view. As we say, password protect files. That can also include, if you've got a spreadsheet, make sure there's a password on it so not anyone can just jump on there and sort of see any sensitive data. And also, as I say, if you've got a device such as an iPad or something like that you use, or a tablet, make sure there's a password on it rather than just opening it up. A lot of the time we do that anyway. It's very good practice to have passwords and pins on things. So just make sure that that's all there as well. I'll only be a minute, so that's where you leave your diary on the seat next to you when you've nipped into the shop or nipped into the bank or whatever you've done. So yeah, think about that. It only takes that minute for somebody who has a mind to, that wants to come along and think, oh yeah, that looks interesting, probably a bit of cash in there, driving school car, I might have that. So just be careful of things like that as well. Take it with you, and don't leave things lying about, which I'm sure you won't do anyway. This one here, special category data, I don't know if you've heard of it. That's a term that the Information Commissioner's Office use, or the ICO, which I'll refer to them as. So during times of COVID, one of the suggestions that we've said is you can get you can ask your pupils for, health data. So, how are you? Or, this can even be non-COVID related. So you might ask pupils when you first meet them or before you first meet them, have you got any health things or anything like that? And if they do, you might think, okay, all right, I need to bear that in mind. So if you do collect that, you have to it's known as special category data. So anything like health, gender, somebody's political views, there's loads of things that come under this type of data that needs additional safeguards apply to them before you can collect them. So there's nothing to stop. We did check with the ICO on this. There's nothing to stop a trainer from asking somebody, but recording it all down. So Fred Blogs today has said that he suffers from this and this and this and this, and he's taking this and this and this. You don't want that type of data because it's highly, highly sensitive. That's somebody's health data. So you can ask, go over it verbally, make a note in your mind, but if you do need to collect it down, then we will refer you, we will say go to the ICO and get some additional there is information on the website. The website is very good, holds a lot of information and guidance on that, but there is also a very useful helpline which is free, which they have as well. So we would have always advised you go and get that advice directly from those guys on that. So just bear in mind that. Anything else to add on there, Howard, at the moment? Wouldn't take that as a no. Okay, going to move on. Howard's disappeared. So what is GDPR? So this stands for the General Data Protection Regulation. So this is went live 25th of May 2018. So it's been around a little while. It can still cause a few questions and think, you know, am I complying? What is it? It was put in place in essence to protect an EU citizen's private information and anything that identifies them personally. So you need to be careful with, you know, again, just applying that. Again, common sense approach to this would also go a long way, as we said from the beginning. So thinking about anything that could help identify perhaps one of your pupils. So you've got things like make sure, and again, a lot of ADIs do this for their marketing, which is a great thing because you're so proud. You've got somebody through, you know, you've turned them into a good driver, they've passed their test, and you take a picture of them for your website, for your marketing, and that's a great marketing tool. You just got to think about the fact that if they're stood there holding up their certificate, their pass certificate, got the name on it, you've got the face, you might have a location, so you know it's identifiable information and identifies them personally. So you just got to be a little bit careful. It's nothing to say you can't do it, but you just need to put a few more measures in place just to make sure that, for example, get them to sign something or get them to agree, put some terms in place. So you can say, you know, would you object if I use this picture and I put it on my website? So let them know how and where and when you're going to use it and how long you might keep that information as well, because obviously if you're going to use something like that, if someone keeps coming to your website, you don't want the same face on there all the time. You want to show that you've got lots of different people passing with you. That's great. So you make sure that you go through that with them as well. And usually with these things, generally under 18s, which you know is quite a common a chunk of our people that we train, then you know, get some kind of parental consent from that as well. And again, any queries with that, again, do go and check it out with the ICO, because that is really important that you do. So you just got to bear those little things in mind. So for example, if you're going to, like some trainers have put some dash cam footage up on YouTube, and where you've got the dual lens, so it's facing out but it's also facing in as well. So and if you pop that up there as maybe someone did something not quite right, or you know, you putting it up there or sharing it with a group of you, then you've got to be careful there, very careful, because that data, someone could recognize their location, a particular road or an area, and think, okay, and you might be referring to somebody in the car, or they might see their face if it's a dual lens. So you've got to be careful of things like that as well. So there is, again, more guidance on the ICO website, and we'd always direct you to that. But these are just things to flag up with you at the moment, to make sure that you are aware.
I need to add something there, if I may, that
Sure.
the situation with this is that if you do put film on your website of a student with a dash cam, like Olivia said, yes, you need the permission from the student, as Olivia said, but it would be very wise for you to put a disclaimer or put a caveat on the website itself, just a line underneath to say this film has been permission has been given by the candidate for us to show this film and put that on there as well. And that way, no one's got any doubt as to whether you're working with the ICO or not.
Mm. That's it. I mean, the GDPR, it places greater obligations on how organisations, so a business, a small business, a micro business, handle personal data. So again, we're all very, ADI's great bunch of people. We're very proud of what we do, and we're very proud of our students. But it's just making sure, we are still bearing in mind we're still handling that person's personal data, and sometimes, as we've said, with the special category data, some data which is ultra sensitive, so we have to be just mindful, and if you're not sure, as I say, go to the ICO. If you've got some specific questions, we might be able to arrange, we're looking to arrange something with more of a subject expert in this area later on, so that would be good to answer some of those. So send us your questions if you've got things like that, and have a little look on there as well. So GDPR, how's it made up? So there are 7 key principles which should lie at the heart of all your approach to processing personal data, and that can be found on the ICO. So you can, instead of obviously clicking on the link is difficult at the moment, and also you're not going to have a chance to write this down, so don't worry, we are recording it, you'll be able to see it back, but you can just type into Google or your search engine what the GDPR 7 principles of that, so and it will bring those up. So we'll look at those, as I say, in a bit more depth at another time. What information does this apply to? So GDPR is personal data, so it means that any information relating to an identifiable person, it can be directly or indirectly identified, in particular by reference to an identifier. So, and GDPR applies to processing carried out by organisations operating within the EU, and also organisations outside of the EU that offer the goods and service to people within the EU. So anyone working with someone in the European Union, so that will also apply to us as well. So does it apply to me? So you need to comply with the data protection regulations of GDPR, regardless of your size, if you process personal data. So if it's just you on your own, you still need to comply with certain regulations. So this includes using pupil information on social media and websites, as we've given an example. Anything else you wanted to add on that bit, Howard? Are you just unmuting your microphone at the moment?
I should be heard now.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. No, we've got a question coming up in a minute, but I shall answer the question. It's in the question box in a few slides' time. But I've got nothing to add at all, except to say that, just to avoid confusion, that the information we're talking about here is personal information used for a business purpose. So if your company that you run, own, whatever, wants information of personal nature of an individual, this is where it comes under the ICO. If you're just friending someone on your own private Facebook account, that doesn't count. Providing that Facebook account is nothing to do with your driving school, and that person is not any part of your business. So we've got to be very careful that we're looking at your commercial entity gathering in private information that forms part of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, anyone can, we all have personal data of other people, friends and relatives, that's fine. But yeah, when it's processing in terms of in connection with your business, that's where this mainly applies. And obviously you look after that data anyway, but even more safeguards are in place for other people's data when it's in a work capacity. So again, the size of an organisation is a factor in a range of areas, and again, further information on the ICO website. But in terms of, do I need to comply with the data protection regulations? Yes, you do. It doesn't matter, if it's just you on your own or whether you're part of a larger group, then it does. But the ICO, that there are rules, if it's under 250 people in an organisation and things like that, and obviously that wouldn't come under most people here. Again, more information is found on the ICO website. So we're doing a lot of signposting as well today. So we want you to go on the ICO website if you've not done that before, and just go on there and have a little look around. And as I say, use the tools available to you. There's an awful lot of good information on there, and a lot of answers that, answers to your questions on there as well. So do spend the time and go on there and have a little look and a read as well. Now, this is quite a common question. Should I have a privacy notice or privacy policy? So the short answer, yes. So if you're collecting data, which you will be, so you'll be collecting name, address, email, phone, what loads of other potential data as well. So yes, you need to have a privacy policy in place if you collect the data, considering the 7 principles of GDPR, which again, signpost to GDPR website, ICO website even, making sure that the data you collect is concise, making sure there are rules around transparency. So you are not trying to pull over the wool over somebody's eyes and say, no, I won't need to collect that from you when you are. And also, letting them know what information that you hold on them. That's very important. And also, if somebody wants to say, well, what information do you hold on me? Then you will be able to say, well, I've got this, and this that you provided to me when we started working together. So that's important as well, that level of transparency. It's got to be intelligible. So, it's got to be understood by anyone reading it, and accessible. So again, using language that is plain English, try and avoid jargon, try and avoid technical terms where possible, and making sure that perhaps it's available in some different formats. You could have something which is a digital version, you could have something on I don't know if they do, it's got to be a written policy, but just making sure that someone can see it. If they go to your website, they can easily access it unless you give them a paper copy. Obviously, at the moment during COVID, you want to have as much digital in place as possible for the health and safety reasons. But sometimes things are, not as easy. So to have in that respect, and you do want somebody to be able to access it. So, but do have a copy on your website if you've got a website. Regardless, you should have these things in place. And also, somebody coming to you to work with, to teach them to drive or teach their son or daughter to drive, it gives them as well a level of comfort that this driving school looks really good. I like the sound of them. They've got a good reputation. And they've got all these things that I would expect to see in place from a business. So business terms and conditions, privacy policy, and other bits and pieces in there as well. As we say, written in plain and clear English, and also free of charge. So this is not something which should ever be a chargeable aspect to your provision. It should always be free of charge. And as we say, can accompany business terms and conditions, and it often does. So a lot of you have T's and C's in place, which is good. And if you don't have a privacy policy at the moment, do consider getting one as soon as you can. Take advice if you need to do so. Again, ICO website is a great place for that. And don't forget, as part of your DI membership, you can get that in our shop. You can purchase our updated terms and condition pads as well, which also cover pandemics and things like force majeure. That clause is in there, and also privacy policy, which we can sell to you as well, which has been created with a driving school business in mind. You might have those two documents are one of the main foundations of you working with somebody. So do make sure that you've got that.
Just like to, can you go back, please?
Sure.
Reiterate transparent. The second bullet point, mention transparent also means that if somebody asks you why you are keeping that information, you are clear and honest with it. So you don't say tomorrow, I only want it for my website, I want it for my marketing, and then you go and sell the information. That's not transparent. And the problem we have here, as you've got the 7 principles here, it can be up to a £300,000 fine if this information is not used correctly in these 7 principles. So it's quite serious stuff. So transparency is probably the strongest one there, that you have got to tell people why you are collecting the information if you need it, and you can only use that information for the purposes that you've told them you're going to use it for. That's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okie dokie. Right, so this is a common question, are we a data processor or controller? Now, we'll go into a little example of this in a moment, but a data controller, just to define what that means, a controller determines the purpose and means of processing personal data, and a processor is responsible for processing personal data on behalf of a controller. So a controller might say, we need this information over here, and then they might then give that processor the authority then to say, we need you to process that on our behalf, and do X, Y, Z with it. So if you are a processor, GDPR places legal obligations on you. So you are required to maintain records of personal data and processing activities, and you will have a legal liability if you are responsible for a breach. So if that information got out and it was used in a way that wasn't agreed by the people's, by when you collected that data in the first place, and it was used for something else, because you're thinking, well, I've got that information now, I could then use these names and addresses for something else, then that wouldn't be the good use of that data, and you wouldn't have permission to do that. So that's kind of what that's getting at. So if you are a controller, you still have legal liabilities where a processor is involved, as the GDPR places further obligations on you to ensure your contracts with processors comply with the GDPR. So if you are, we'll go into this in an example on the next slide. So I got this actually from the ICO website, so I've not made this up. And I thought it's actually a really good way of describing the role of a processor and a controller. So a gym wants to send out invites for an event and gives names and addresses of its members to a local printing company to send invites directly to people. So the gym is the controller of the personal data process for the invites. So they've got the gym, people have signed up to the gym and said, hey, I want to sign up, I want to come and work out, here's my name and address and all the details, and the controller said, great, okay. So they control and hold that data. So the gym then determines the purposes for which the personal data is being processed to send individually addressed invitations to the event and the means of the processing. So if they do, so for example, a mail merge, the personal data with the data subject's address details. So the printing company is a processor processing personal data on the gym's instructions. So the data controller, the gym, hold that data and they say to the printing company up the road, hey, can you print this for me? Then the controller needs to put some kind of agreement in place with the processor to make sure that they are processing that data strictly in line with what that gym is requesting and no more. So that data is not being sent anywhere, shared with third parties, used in any other way. So that is a fair and legitimate control measure that is put in place between a processor and a controller. But an ADI, if you're on your own and you're out there working, you could be the controller and the processor. If you are working maybe for a larger driving school, the data controller, again, it depends who's getting the pupils in the first place. So it could be your data if you could be the controller if you're getting that information first, or it could be the driving school. If they're getting the pupils' information first and then passing it on to you to teach them, they're obviously going to share some data with you. They have to under that legitimate interest. But then the processor, they could also be the processor as well, because then they might send out a mail shot to people, or they might it could be something emailed to them, or so they're also using that data to process. So it can be a little bit like getting your head around the subject, but you've got two things there. But an ADI, you could be both on there. Anything else to add on there, Howard?
Yeah, we've actually got a question which hits this on the head really well, actually. Lawrence says, I deliver CPC training on behalf of DVSA, DVA, JALT, and they may send a person not employed by them to oversee the course delivery. They take clients' personal data, which is then out of our control. Who is responsible for the data as it is taken out of my control should I refuse to share the data with the third party? Well, the answer here, Lawrence, is you can't refuse to share that data because you're contracted to the CPC for JALT or FORS or whatever you're doing it for, collecting information on their paperwork, which they request you to collect. And the contract is that you will deliver that information to them on behalf of the people you are training. So you cannot refuse to send that information over. What you have to be careful is that once you sent that information over, if they tell you to destroy the information, you mustn't keep it. You must destroy it because you mustn't keep it. And you cannot use that information to go back and visit those clients behind their back or anything else, or use it on your website to say that you've got these people through a course because you are a third party to the JALT or FORS or DVSA or DVA, and therefore you are unable, you just have to pass the information over. You cannot refuse to pass it over.
Yeah, that is needed in connection with what the service that you're delivering for them. But as Howard says, yeah, you don't want to be sharing that. You use it only for what you've been asked to do and to provide a service to the client. But and that's it. That's where it stops. And as you say, once that's ended, that contract's ended, then you would need to decide: do I need to keep the data anymore? And if you've got no reason to keep it, then get rid of it. That's the other thing. You only want to hold data for as long as you absolutely need it. We could argue that when you are, say you're a driving school business and you've taught a provisional license holder, let's say, and they passed the test with you, and they want to then potentially take some further training with you. You could then hold on to their details for a little bit longer in terms of that, because that could be a legitimate interest. You might have something where you're going to do some additional training. Could be whatever it may be, plus or whatever it may be. So and you might continue that working relationship with them. So that way, you can hold data, but obviously if it gets to a certain point, you've got to review what you're holding and what information you've got on people and think, well, I haven't heard from them for a long time, or, maybe send them a little message to say, are you interested? And if it's, that they've gone away, then you don't want to be holding on to data you don't need. Apart from obviously HMRC for your tax return, you need to hold on to that for a period of time. But that is a legal requirement that you need to do. But in terms of everything else, then you shouldn't be using that data or holding it unnecessarily. Okay, so have a little look at this one. Do I need to register? So this is a good question. We would always signpost people again to the ICO website, because there is a self-assessment tool, which is free, takes a few minutes to do. And the dash cam, since they've become more commonplace, this has always been a key question. But looking at the ICO website again recently, if you have a dash cam that you use for work purposes on the vehicle that you use for work, then you are likely to need to register and pay a data protection fee to the ICO unless you are exempt. So that's because your dash cam on your vehicle is used for work purposes and is not considered domestic. So if you've got a private person who is just going to do the shopping, they're not working, they're going to go and visit a friend, visit the gym, whatever, that is considered domestic and those people don't necessarily need to register with the ICO, but you're using your dash cams in relation to your work. So in that way, you'd need to, it says you are likely to need to register. So always go through, use that self-assessment tool. And again, you can take that link down there, or again, just type into a search engine, self-assessment ICO, then you'll be able to get to that page a bit quicker. Really interesting that you would do that. And things like how much does it cost and things like that, it's a nominal fee. It's something like £40 a year for most driver trainers on there, and rider trainers as well. So there are different categories, different tiers of payments, but that is in proportion to the size of your organisation. So if it's you or a small number of you, then it's likely to be something around the £40 mark. So have a little look on there as well. And also, again, it will give members of the public coming to work with you, organisations that want to come and work with you for maybe occupational driving or things like that, that little bit more reassurance that you've got all these things in place, and then it just adds to your level of professionalism as well, and also protect you. That's one of the main things as well, making sure that you are protected and your business is protected, and you're not leaving any loops open for people to pick at. So that's important. So we always urge you to go and have a look on there, go to the self-assessment tool, have a little go. If it comes out that maybe you do, maybe you don't, then again, it should then direct you to further information on there. And also don't forget that helpline is there, and they're really, really friendly, lovely people on there, and they'll answer your questions. So hopefully that will help you on there as well. Anything else to add, Howard?
No, you've covered all that quite nicely.
I don't know about that, but we've covered it. So again, we've gone over a lot of this now, but just to reiterate, so it's not protecting data in all the GDPR data protection. Yeah, it's probably, granted, not the most enjoyable part of your role, but it is vital, as we've said, for not only your pupils' protection, but for your business protection, and not forgetting your reputation as well. So legally, all trainers need to protect any information about the pupils or customers that you keep and use. So under data protection, you need, as we've said, just to reiterate a few points, you need to collect data only that you need for a specific purpose, ensure its security, keep it up to date and relevant, only collect and keep what you really need and for as long as you need it, and allow that transparency and allow them to know what data you hold on them, and as you need this to work with them, you would be, in a lot of cases, considered that data controller because you are gathering that data. So making sure that you put all that in place. Again, a lot of it is common sense, but again, we keep signposting you, do have a little look at ICO as well. And if you are interested in delving into this vast subject in even more depth, let us know, because we will certainly get something arranged where we get a subject expert, as I say, to answer some more of your probing questions, so do let us know if that's of interest to you, and we'll get it arranged. So just before we go on to anything else, you just flicked up the next slide so you can see a little update on there. Are there any other questions that are outstanding that we've got?
There's nothing in the question box, and there's nothing in the chat. So we see.
Okay. We've killed them all.
Oh, hang on, a question coming. Hang on a minute. Let me see what this is. Right. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to answer this one different. I've got you keep chatting. I'll just read through this question. It's quite a long one.
Okay, all right. So that's obviously private to one person. Obviously, if it's relevant to everyone, we'll answer it. But obviously, if someone's asking something very specific to them, we'll answer you directly. So just while Howard's answering that one, I'll just go on and start to wrap up the session really. So Academy update. If you haven't been on there, go on there. Great website. We've got loads of courses on there. We're being COVID safe, so you do all of this from the comfort of your own home. So recently, just this week, we've got our new equality and diversity course on there. That is a really important one to go on, so you understand, more about that subject, because that's quite topical as well at the moment. So do go on there and have a little look, all delivered online. And with our online courses, there will be a Zoom study session with the tutor as well. So, and dates are on the website for that. So have a little look, and again, just get that little bit more information from attending a course such as that, to make sure that you're up to speed with everything as well. A lot of these things like equality and diversity, safeguarding, that we see, some of the issues that we see from members are where sometimes there's been no malicious intent on the part of the member, but they managed to get themselves, on a letter from the DVSA, or someone's reported them, pupil might have reported them. So it's just a case of making sure that you are up to date with everything, and you are conscious of what you're saying, what you're doing, because again, sometimes people have, been in front of, or been in a situation that they really don't want to be in terms of, the registrar and things like that, and they've meant nothing by a comment or a statement or a gesture or something like that, and they're doing it as with no ill feeling or any intent behind it. It's just something that they might have said. So not to put the frighteners on you too much, but it is quite, can be quite common. So do make sure that you are protecting yourselves as much as you can, and making sure you're up to date with all of this stuff, and that course will help you out with that. The safeguarding, yeah, we've got start dates in November, and that's delivered online again. That's an accredited course, that one. So that is a national accredited course. So it will be recognised in other areas of your life if you needed to have safeguarding for something else. And other courses that we've got, the alcohol and drugs one, that is especially good coming up to, I don't want to mention the Christmas word, but sorry, I had to. So that's especially good coming up to times of the year such as that, where we do see a spike in drink drive and drug related offences on the road. So that is also a really good one, and delivered by a real expert in that area as well on driver behaviour. Standards check, so that one's on there as well, plus loads more on there for you. So do have a little look around, and that's diaacademy.co.uk. and a lot of you are regulars to our webinars, and you're on the website anyway, but have a little look around, and certainly check out the new one on there, and there'll be some new ones coming again soon as well. So any further questions? Now, I can't see the questions at the moment because we're still getting our head around. We're very good Zoom users these days, but we've added the webinar function. We've changed from our usual webinar provider to this one now, so we're just getting our head around it on this end. So or it's me really. I won't drag Tom down with me because he so if anyone's got any further questions, I can't see them. Are there anything else, Howard or Tom?
Yeah, I've just unravelled Lawrence's question now. He delivers CPC on behalf of the DVSA, DVA in Northern Ireland and JALPT, and sometimes third-party people not employed by them are sent in to oversee the courses, the course deliveries. They take the client's personal details, which is then out of the control of the person delivering the course, because these are overseers. And what Lawrence is concerned about is who's responsible for the data once it leaves his control. Well, the situation here is where you've got this overseeing from a department that requires that information. If they are part of the organisation overseeing whatever the organisation is, then yes, you can release that data to them, because they are the ones that are carrying the data from you to the inputters, to the controllers. Therefore, it's okay for you to release that information. Don't worry about what they do with it. If it's not you who are the author of the course or the owner of the course, it's been written by somebody else for you to deliver, you've got no worry over it. If you are the person that actually wrote the course and had it accredited for the purposes of CPC, then you do have a duty to ensure that if a third party is sent in to monitor you, that you have some sort of paperwork to show that the people taking the information from you is responsible and has been deemed credible by like JALPT or DV or DVSA. You would need to have that in writing to show that the information you're passing over is going into secure hands. That is what you would need to do. And I hope, Lawrence, that answers your question.
Yeah. And again, if it didn't, for any reason you needed some further clarification, we'll say, contact the ICO's helpline.
I'm in the same situation as Lawrence. I deliver CPC on third party. I go into an organisation as a third party, not employed by the organisation delivering the CPC. So I collect information and I have to pass it on to anybody who comes in to monitor that course, to monitor me, because they are the representative of in this instance, JALPT or FORS. So I hand it over to them, and I have no more dealing with that information. I don't keep any of it. It goes off. It's handed on to the people that need to have it. If I don't have a supervisor there, I have to send on all that paperwork through uploading it into a certain system. And then once I've uploaded that and I've still got the paper, I have to then send the paper on afterwards to GELBT. So it's not in my possession. So I don't have any information there that I shouldn't have. And I've collected it. I've done the course. I've collected the information, and I've passed it on to the responsible party it belongs to. And that's the end of my dealing with that information.
Okay. All right. So you've had that experience as well then, Howard. That's interesting. That's really good. As I say, ICO will speak confidentially as well. So should you have any concerns or worries, then they're the people to check. And if you're still in doubt, or you've gone through what Howard suggested, and you still you're not entirely sure what safeguards are in place, it might turn out that everything is okay. But if you're still in doubt, then do check that out down that route. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening in. And as I say, do let us know if you want someone from ICO. We're going to try and get someone from there to come and answer any questions that you might have about your business. So let us know. training@driving.org is the correct email address to ping those kind of emails to. So it's training@driving.org, and that will then take a look at that and get it sorted. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And if you've got any other questions or queries, ADR related things, as a member helpline, you've got you can give us a call, and you can also email support@driving.org, and we will then help you out on there as well. Okay, right. That's it for this morning. Anything else to add, Howard?
No, I think we've provided everyone's happy. There's nothing in the chats. There's no more questions. So
okay, cool.
As far as I can see, we're okay.
Okie dokie. Right. Well, thank you everyone again, and wishing you a lovely weekend, and hope you all stay safe, and we'll be in touch with the next webinar soon. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.